All right, part 4 of chapter 34, the final and last installment for our test over chapter 34. So we were looking at evolution of primates, apes specifically. We looked at pictures of some common examples of primates that we would see in zoos typically. And now we're going to talk about the evolution of humans, Homo sapiens, we know. Very, very young, considering that life has existed on Earth for 3.5 billion years. So our species is thought to have arisen about 200,000 years ago. Remember that Earth was formed 4.6 billion years ago. Took about 1 billion years for the very first single-celled organism to evolve, and then again us 200,000 years ago. So really hard to wrap our head around that, but we are very, very young in terms of how long we've been around on the earth. Some derived characters of Homo sapiens, again, that allow us to be different and distinguished from the other apes that we mentioned before. We have upright posture and bipedal locomotion, so we walk on 2 feet. Very big brains, so much larger brains than the other apes that we looked at. These large brains are capable of language, symbolic thought, artistic expression, and manufacture and use of complex tools. Now we know that there are lots of other examples of apes and primates who use tools as well, but the complexity of the tools changes as we look at Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens, humans have reduced jaw bones and also smaller jaw muscles and a much shorter digestive tract. Let me show you one thing here. In gorillas, if you look at their skull and then their jaw muscle is actually the size of our quadriceps, so the large muscle on the front of your leg, which is made up of 4 individual smaller muscles, is the size of the muscle that you would find in the jaw of the gorilla. So our muscles surrounding our jaw, which allow for movement of our face, for speaking, for chewing, and all the other things that we use our jaws for, much smaller muscle that is doing that. So studying human origins is known as paleoanthropology. So if you think of paleontology is studying old, right? Old fossils. Anthropology is studying humans specifically. So putting those together, studying old humans and human remains. Hominins are the extinct species that are more closely related to us, present day Homo sapiens, than to chimpanzees. So our closest living relative, again, is a chimpanzee. And the species name of that is Pan troglodytes. But there are much more closely related species to us that are extinct now, and that would be in the hominin group. So the paleoanthropologists are theorizing at this point that there are about 20 species of extinct hominins based on the fossils that we have found thus far. Doesn't mean that there might be more, right? We could have, we might not have found all of them yet. So we're continuing to add to the list. Here's Homo sapiens, and again, here are an example time period looking at some of the earlier hominins. Oldest fossil evidence of hominins dates back to 6.5 million years ago. Remember, our species arose 200,000 years ago, so very, very young in terms of all of the species of hominins. The earliest hominins show evidence of very small brains and starting to move from walking on 4 limbs to walking on 2. So increasing amounts of bipedalism that we see in early hominins. They also seem to be very short, so 1.2 meters tall, So it is less than 4 feet tall, the earliest hominins. Here is fossil remains of Artie, a 4.4 million year old hominin. Again, incomplete, but a good number of bones. Some misconceptions. Early hominins were chimpanzees or evolved from chimpanzees. The correct way to consider this information is that hominins and chimpanzees shared a common ancestor. So we are not evolved from chimpanzees, but we have a common ancestor with them. Another misconception is that human evolution is like a ladder that led directly to our species, the Homo sapiens. That's not true. Hominin evolution included many branches or species that lived at the same time, although we are the only member of our hominin group that is alive today. Australopiths are a group of hominins that lived between 4 and 2 million years ago. Some of the species within this group, Australopithecus afarensis, I believe one of the first fossils was called Lucy, and this group was thought to walk fully erect. So this was, again, a change from what we see with a lot of the apes. So again, a lot of these apes have the ability to walk on 2 legs, but often walk or run with 4. Whereas again, this right here, Australopithecus africansis, which Lucy was thought to be a part of this group, was one of the first that started to become primarily bipedal, whereas these were not. Laetoli footprints, so footprints that were found. So these are fossilized remains of footprints of early humans. This is an artist's reconstruction of what the A. afarensis would look like. Again, Lucy was a member of this group. So bipedalism allowed for humans to walk, or hominins to walk, very long distances. It also was very energy efficient in these desert and dry environments that we were originally found to live in. Homo habilis is another group of early hominin species that is now extinct. They are unique in that they are thought to have been some of the earlier tool builders or tool users. They use stone tools. So the reason that they have this name Homo habilis is because of these stone tools that were found with the fossils, and this is described as handyman. Homo ergaster, first fully bipedal large brain hominid, 1.9 to 1.5 million years ago. So this particular species within the Homo genus, significant decrease in sexual dimorphism. So size difference between the sexes compared with ancestors. So the differences between females and males started to get smaller in the Homo ergaster species. Homo erectus originated in Africa, was the first hominin to migrate out of Africa 1.8 million years ago. Homo neanderthalensis. Neanderthals is how Europeans say it. Neanderthals is how Americans say it. Very thick-boned, larger brain, typically shorter than modern humans, but lived at the same time as modern humans. They buried their dead. They had hunting tools. And what we find now is that there is evidence of gene flow between the 2 species. So there was interbreeding, intermating between our species and theirs, which is really interesting too. So the divergence between our species and Neanderthalensis 400,000 years ago. And then Homo sapiens, again, all living humans present today are descended from African ancestors. Likely, oldest fossils have been found thus far in Ethiopia and Africa, dating back to between 195 and 160,000 years ago. So that's where that 200,000-year-old date comes from. New fossils are continuing to be found, and figuring out where to put them on the tree is something that continues to be an issue. 2004, a very small hominin was found, Homo florensis. But again, there is debate about whether this is a new species, or if this is just a smaller variation of another species. This is showing again evidence of symbolic thought, cave paintings that have been found from 30,000 years ago, 77,000 years ago. So lots of really interesting evidence that has arisen. There's a 5-part PBS series on early human evolution. We'll see what we'll do about watching some of those. And then we'll be looking at some skulls in our class 2 to see the differences in size and jaw shape in those early hominins and in our skull as well. All right, that's the end of chapter 34. I look forward to seeing you in class again soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.